Kubrick's next project looked far more commercial. With Stephen King's best-selling novel, The Shining, he seized the chance to make a film that would both satisfy him artistically and meet the demands of the box office.
I'm asking about The Shining, you know, it's such unusual. He says, well, in reality, this is an optimistic picture. And I said, on what basis, Stanley? And he said, as the the existential, pragmatic man that he was, he said, well, in some way, this movie's about ghosts. Anything that says there's anything after death is an optimistic story.
There are still images in The Shining that I wake up screaming about. That little boy in the hall and the
tracking of the Steadicam.
The little boy on the bicycle.
Of the little boy.
The sense of movement that gave that picture inside this very, very foreboding place.
You know that something is building up in this place, and the way it's the blandness, let's say, of the people, how quiet they are. And
is Tony the one that tells you things?
Yes.
How does he tell you things?
It's like I go to sleep, and he shows me things. But when I wake up, I can't remember everything.
Has Tony ever told you anything about this place? About the Overlook Hotel?
It's holding back this extraordinarily emotional, powerful, dramatic punch that's going to happen. You know it's going to come somehow, and at some time. And it just creates such suspense.
Is there something bad here?
At first, I was taken aback by some of the performance, and then, after the third or fourth viewing, I understood the level of intensity what Nicholson was doing.
I'm not sure that that is intended to be what a typical horror movie is, which is a realistic portrayal of supernatural spookiness. I think that what's going on in that movie is largely going on in Jack Nicholson's head.
Hi, Lloyd. A little slow tonight, isn't it?
Yes, it is, Mr. Torrance.
You know, I like the kind of film he makes. I don't need to be naturalistic in a film to feel satisfied as an actor. You know, one of the things he said to me that I've always remembered was in movies you don't try and photograph the reality. You try and photograph the photograph of the reality. And I knew it wouldn't be a performance about idiosyncratic behaviorism, but that it would be, I always thought of it as balletic in The Shining. Like another lesson was, here, Jack, the script says Jack is not writing. Well, the question is, what is he doing? And I said, well, you know, whenever I'm inside a big empty place that you normally wouldn't be alone in, I always think of doing things that I might do outside, and that's where throwing that tennis ball all during the picture, and you know, it wound up being a big part of staging. It rolls into things, it's thrown the length of hallways, you know, all of those kinds of things, and it's from those little things that he would develop sort of preconceived idiosyncrasy, you know. I mean, he always knew what he was going to get. He said often that every scene really has been done. Our job is always to do it just a little bit better.
Mr. Grady, you were the caretaker here.
I'm sorry to differ with you, sir. But you are the caretaker. You've always been the caretaker. I should know, sir. I've always been here.
We had a good friendly relationship, you know. I mean, he'd turn on you in a moment and say, all right, you know, you're the big fella, let's see it. You know, I mean, that's about as harsh as he ever got with me. You know, I mean, he was a completely different director with Shelley.
Right. Oh, come on. What do you mean roll
2
video?
seconds.
We're killing ourselves out here, and you've got to be ready.
I am too. I'm standing
we
right
play
by
mood
the
music?
door. No, I can't
Yeah, but when you
hear.
came out like this, you should have just...
We're sitting there because they say, wait a minute, and then you say on the radio,
but when you
go.
do it, you've got to look desperate, Shelley. You're just wasting everybody's time there.
I can't even get this door open.
For a person so charming and so likable, indeed lovable, he can do some pretty cruel things when you're filming, because it seemed to me at times that the end justified the means.
Here's Johnny.
It was a very difficult role. It was a long shoot, and I had to cry and hyperventilate and carry a little boy and run, you know, for most of the time we shot. And that was about a year, a little over a year. And anywhere between 30 and 50 videotaped rehearsals before we even rolled film. I wouldn't trade the experience for anything. Why? Because of Stanley. And it was a fascinating learning experience. It was such intense work that I think it makes you smarter, but I wouldn't want to go through it again.
We were working with the material that was in the book and trying to make music that fit the mood of a sort of updated Gothic horror story, which is what The Shining is, really, I mean, as a novel in any case. And of course, the stylization that came out through the filming was not present in the book. And so we failed in our attempt, which is why there is a great deal of other music put into the movie.
Danny, you win. Let's take the rest of this walking, huh?
A lot of the music cues are combinations of some of Ligeti's music, some of Penderecki's music. And lots of background patterns and textures with heartbeats and sizzling electronic little weird sounds. And those were all mixed together. That's how Stanley finally did what he was looking for.
When The Shining was released, the response was mixed. Some people appreciated its riddles and ambiguities. Others felt that Kubrick had strayed too far from Stephen King's book.
When I say that the people who love Stanley's movies were mostly movie people, they're just looking at what's in the frame. What's the moviness of the movie? They, of course, love Stanley in a very, I find, in a very uncomplicated way. Whereas, you know, the critical community tends to fuss and fidget over what Stanley did.
After The Shining, Kubrick and his family moved to a large, rambling mansion in the